Welcome to the OC. I'm your host, Phil, and this is my co-host, Corey, and we are Ordered Chaos Podcast. And tonight we are talking about alien abductions.
I want to go officially on record. This was your choice, okay? So if it gets a little weird and crazy,
goes off the rails, it's all me. It's on me.
Not going to be the Montauk Project, though.
Nobody's going to probe you tonight, though, Corey. I'm just saying.
Don't you kink shame me.
I'm sorry. There's no kink shame. Whatever you do with your anus is your business.
It's your body. You are in control of your own body, my friend.
It's your body. And so where I think we should start, and I is at the beginning of sort of when this became kind of popular. You know, this thing was like, so way back when there was these two people, and their names are kind of cool, Barney and Betty Hill.
Yeah, not to be confused with Barney and Betty Rubble, which I wonder if there's any relationship.
No.
Do you think maybe?
That's a good question.
I do think that's just like a BB sort of thing, like a illiterate. Is that what it's called?
Really? I never even fucking thought of that. Yeah, Flintstones.
And now, is this actually the first alien abduction story, or
I'm
is
not
this
sure if it's the absolute first, but this one got public like notoriety. So these two folks, I mean, you got to go back. So this is
set the stage for me.
I'm going to set the stage. This is 1961. So it's, they're an interracial couple living in where the hell are they living in? I have it here.
They live the rural
yeah, so they're Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So they're in a very small area, predominantly more left than your traditional south of the border southerners. So they're
if they're an interracial couple in 1960, this is a big
deal. This is like there's trendsetters, but they're not only that, they're educated. So she's a social worker. He is a postman.
First-time postal worker.
He's a postal worker. I don't know if he's an actual deliver post, but he works for the postal service. So like they're pretty legit middle class individuals, right? So then they, they're also active. They're church people. They're part of the NAACP. They're activists, and Barney's an activist for civil rights. So he's really part of a movement, to say, okay, hey, I can marry whoever the fuck I want to marry. Yeah. If I want to marry a white chick, I can marry a white chick. Simple as that. Yeah. So they're progressive. They're well liked in their community, and they're just
not what you would consider your typical crazy.
Right. Like I just got fucking beamed up, Scotty. Twice.
Like, did you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit with Kristen Wiig when they talk about the alien abduction?
No.
Oh, you should. She gets the whole cast to just they can barely contain themselves. She's talking about she's basically playing a complete redneck, and she's like, yeah, and the probe me, and it's just the way she does it. It's just the way she does it, and it's hilarious. If you get a chance,
I put on the French tickler. Then they probed me. God
you could see she was going out of her way to make them make them break, which I think they all do anyway. But she's the Barney and Betty aren't those.
They are not. They are, they're very above board. So not only that, I mean, they're on vacation. So this is where this all starts. They're taking a vacation. They end up going to Niagara Falls. Not sure if they went to Niagara Falls, New York, or the more beautiful and scenic side of Niagara Falls, Ontario, which I happen to visit usually once a year, except for all this, lockdown shit. And then they go to Montreal, and they're kind of doing a big loop. So and then they're coming back, and on their way back, they're back in, they're in New Hampshire, and then Betty's just sort of, it's dark. It's 10:30 at night. Betty's looking around, and she sees what the small light moving around in the sky, and she assumes that it's maybe a plane or Jupiter or something, right? And that's where our story kind of begins. Did you read about this stuff?
I read a bunch of it. Okay, so essentially they see stuff, and then she basically said, they start booking Jesus, right? Like they start getting the hell out of there.
Well, they do, but it's kind of interesting because they kind of chase this fucking thing a little bit, right? Because Barney's interested.
They follow
right?
it for the. They follow it,
follow
and
it
then all of a sudden
follows them.
Yes, which is where things start. Like they've got binoculars, right? And all of a sudden,
so they're looking, and then I guess it got to about 100 feet above them, and then Barney parked the car, and they actually took a detour to be able to see this thing. So this is part of the story too, is they actually make this detour, and they end up kind of off their beaten path a little bit. And Barney looks up with his binoculars because every good person at those days, and he sees 8 or 10 humanoid looking things that are in the windows of this craft.
Yeah, they're looking out, so that they're looking out of the craft.
These guys are like, what the fuck are those two doing down there?
Well, one of the things they said is they kind of thought they were playing with them, right? So they're following, but it's like, wait a second, this thing seems to be playing with us.
The other thing to mention is that Barney carries a gun. Barney was also an ex-World War II vet.
I did not read that, but that
Barney saw some shit. So that's another site that I was on that kind of gets into the history of them a little bit, but they're pretty interesting folks. He also was an airplane enthusiast, so when Betty was describing what she was seeing, he's like, it didn't make any sense to him, that there was numerous lights and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, Barney sees these things up there, and he's like, the fuck? We're out of here.
At this point, he's running back to the car. He's
like, I'm booking her. I'm out of here. Well, let's get. Oh shit, they're gonna catch us. They're curious now, and so they take off. And then I guess there's some beeps and noises and some humming. That's how they describe as they're driving away.
Yeah, because they're saying about how it gets close to their car.
It lights up everywhere. And but then they kind of lose consciousness. Like they're conscious, but I guess they describe it as sort of being semi-conscious. Then they end up 25 or 35 miles away without knowing how they got there.
Yeah, but 35 miles. Now they were still in their car.
They were still in the car.
It's not like they were naked on the street, right? So they show up later, and they have, it's about 2 hours of missing time, I think is what they're saying, right?
It was 2.5. Well, yeah, because they were close to home. They didn't arrive home until the dawn. That's sort of where I'm seeing as dawn, but then they talk about how they ended up at a roadblock. So after they traveled these 35 miles, they ended up at a roadblock with this glowing orb. And I was like, what the fuck? That's so weird.
Yeah, they recall making a sudden, a sharp, unplanned turn, encountering a roadblock, and observing a fire orb. So these are all the loose details during that period of missing time.
But then they get it. They're like, fuck this. They end up getting back home.
Yeah.
So they described the Barney's describing this object as 40 feet long. Obviously it has windows because you could see.
Well, you could see into it. He saw, like that had, 10 figures looking out at them.
Yeah, having drinks. They're looking down at them.
Well, hey.
What are they doing down there? Do you want to play a game with them? Can you imagine? What do you think they're... Yeah. Anyway, it's a very weird case anyway.
Well, okay, so here's some cool stuff, right? So
sure.
When I say cool stuff, it's more weird stuff because the articles I read. So this is a quote from
There's several.
But here's one of the things they talk about: how when they got home, there were impulses they could not readily explain. Okay.
Yeah.
Betty kept wanting luggage by the back door.
Weird.
And Barney says he was compelled to examine his genitals in the bathroom, though he found nothing unusual.
I just kept looking at my junk.
Kept looking at it. I was like, still there.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty fucking weird too.
Now they drew pictures and they took long showers too. And there was on her dress that was ruined. Like the hem was all torn.
Well, she went to put away her clothes, and the dress was torn in numerous places, but there was this pink substance, she said, that was
like a powder almost that that apparently had been analyzed and nobody ever.
The other thing that Barney noticed was that he was wearing his good dress shoes and the toes have been scuffed as if he'd been dragged. Like if two people drag you, your feet are going to drag on the ground.
His dress shoes were scraped. and his binoculars were torn. Like the strap for his binoculars were torn.
Were torn as well.
And this
but
is
she
nothing
doesn't
he
have
remembers.
any recollection as to how that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, the long shower thing could just be fuck.
They say to remove possible contamination. I'm like, this is 1960. Are you really? Like, I get the nuclear bomb was a thing, but
I have no idea. But I mean, so 10 days later, I guess, they're Betty's having horrible dreams. And she seems to have most of the recollections. Barney is very content, as most men are. We are, to just ignore and to
suppress and ignore, bury it deep,
push it down inside into the quiet place. Yeah, we just build it up and let it sit and fester.
And he's a postal worker, so folks, maybe there's some occupational memory going on. Everybody is remembering Barney's abduction when they go.
Well, yeah, but she's starting to fucking like see things and have very vivid dreams.
Well, let's come back just one quick second.
Yeah,
so
sure.
After the immediate after effects of it, one thing they comment on, there were shiny concentric circles on the car's trunk that had not been there the previous day. Yeah. And they mentioned a compass that they decide to go off. I guess.
I don't know why.
That just seems completely weird. So you brought a compass? Like, it's like, hey, I found
why would you? Or maybe they didn't bring a compass, but they tried to use a compass near. Now, with that said, who knows? Maybe they're trying to figure shit out, but for magnetism or something. But I guess they were very like geometrical circles.
Yeah, the concentric. They were concentric circles. So this concentric.
They were in lines.
Yeah,
I guess as well.
Is that concentric? Oh God,
no idea. We'll have to figure it out.
I've got to Google what concentric it means. But yes.
Anyway, a very fancy term. But
very fancy.
So I can understand me if you fucking saw this, you'd be like, what the Christ is going on here? Especially losing time. They also said their watches never worked again.
Yes. And they say their watches never worked. Not that they could never wear watches, just the watches they had.
The watches they wore. Yeah, that's right. The watches they had on never worked again. They were dead.
Yes, which is the magnetism. So which implies magnetism. That's one way to fuck a watch. I mean, these wouldn't have been digital watches, right? This would have been 60s, so these would have all been, and it doesn't take much to all ferrous metals in that thing.
Yeah. So
a bullseye would be concentric circles, by the way. So it is. It's like a bullseye.
Oh, so it's like
they have the same axes. Apparently, they have the same axes. That's what it means.
Oh, okay.
I learned something else.
Yeah, I've always. So it's funny. Even my wife. I've had nice watches, and I can't wear a watch. My watches always die like right away. It's weird. Watch, it's a thing. People's watches. Some people just can't wear watches. I don't know.
I'm good with watches. I get shocked a lot though. So I will get two things. One, I will get shocked constantly touching cars. It doesn't matter how grounded it is. Yes, but also here's the other freaky part. You could give me a flamethrower and gasoline, and I would have trouble starting a fire.
I remember that with.
I'm like, why is it dying? Why is this fire dying? Why is this fire not working? It's got everything it needs. Everything.
You were there when we lit a fire with coal.
Camper fuel.
Camper fuel.
Yeah, I wouldn't call what we did a fire. I would call that a terrorist attack. That was like a quasi terrorist attack.
Yeah, it was a Molotov cocktail. That was.
Never saw Scouter Jim move so fast in his life when he thought his camp, like he lost another camp of scouts.
Well, the flame had to be 30 feet high. Blew us all back, singed my hair.
Yeah.
Eyebrows. Everyone did. Everyone had their hair.
What the hell were we thinking leaning over? You could literally smell the fumes. Why?
That was Desmond. Desmond poured it on.
I know, but he did that like.
We don't know. But we were all like watching closely.
Very, it's exceedingly close because we wouldn't want to miss.
It was weird. He was that weird boy.
Like fires. He got the fire going.
You like fire. Doing weird things.
You don't want to roast marshmallows over that kind of fire, but still.
No, that's probably a bad idea. And we got in trouble.
But back to our Barney and Betty.
Yeah, Barney and Betty. So I think so, I mean, obviously, this is something that's troubling for them, and they don't immediately tell anyone, which would you? Especially in 1961, like, this is a different era of thinking, right? Like, you could lose your fucking job. Oh,
Well,
Betty's off her rocker.
So this happened like the 19th of September. On the 21st September, they were calling the Air Force to report it.
So it was 10 days later. Yeah.
Was it 10 days? I got
think it
the
was 10
September.
days.
I got September 21st.
Well, yeah, it was something. I don't know. Maybe. Well, that's about right. 10 days.
Well, so I have that it occurred on the
The
9th.
5th, wasn't it? Hold on. I have this.
According to the reports given by the Hills, the alleged UFO sighting happened on September 19th, 1961, around 10:30 p.m.
So they do. Yeah. So the 19th and 20th, because it fell over into.
Yeah, there was because of that lost time. Like they were lost time for a couple. So
That's
they were
right.
rolling home sometime in the morning.
So when did they contact the?
Apparently, she contacted the PA, the Peace, which is an odd name for an Air Force base.
PEASE, yeah, Peace,
to report their encounter.
Yeah.
Although she withheld some of the details, right?
Yeah.
And Major Paul W. Henderson telephoned the Hills for a more detailed interview. So
Right.
they actually.
And who is Paul Henderson later on, Corey? Because you love this shit.
Apparently, he went on to be involved in Project Blue Book.
Oh.
So for those who don't know, Project Blue Book, recently, I think they actually released Project Blue Book a couple of years back, like the
whole thing.
Yeah, because it's all the reports, right? So the classifications usually have a lifespan, right? So they released it. Now it wasn't Project Blue Book at the time,
right?
I believe it was like Project. It started as Project Sign, and then apparently that wasn't edgelord enough, so they called it Project Grudge, and then eventually Project Blue Book. Apparently, Project Grudge, by the way, was the Air Force saying you're all a bunch of losers. Stop doing this. Like they were
you're wasting our fucking time.
Wasting our time, right? They like it wasn't a case of hey, let's sit down and have an interview. It's like, listen, loser, you didn't see anything, okay?
Listen, loser.
So that was Project Grudge. Project Sign was sort of the initial version of it, run strictly by the UCAF, and then it became eventually Project Blue Book, which this Paul W. Henderson guy was involved in, I believe, Project Sign, and through Project Blue Book because of stuff like this, that he was the one who would, did the interviews with the Hills.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think too, like he was also helped them to find, the hypnosis, and they went into kind of some of the things that happened.
And this is where it gets kind of crazy. Are you familiar with the National Investigations Committee on what's it called? National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or also known as NICAP. NICAP.
Nightcap? No, I have not.
So a fellow by the name of Major Donald E. Kehoe, he was one of the co-founders of this organization, and they got involved with this thing too. They were the ones who wound up. Let's see, where are we talking about? So within days of the encounter, borrowed a book. UFO book from a local library. Had been written by a retired Marine Corps Major, Donald Kehoe, who was also the head of NICAP, the Civilian UFO Research Group.
Yeah. Well,
and then on the 26th, so this is where I think you got your 10 days. She contacted them. So the Air Force took the report and basically.
So it was immediate to the Air Force. Okay.
Right. So the Air Force, the Peace Air Force Base, Henderson took the report, and then this winds up going on to Project Blue Book, right?
Right.
But that's all they kind of wind up doing. Like that stops with their activity. She contacts this Major Kehoe fellow. Well, I guess former Major Kehoe. He's retired.
Yeah. I remember reading that, and he said that he believed them. Yep. He was very much like convinced that.
And this is where all the support, like the hypnosis comes in. So anyway, I'll let you go back into that. But
I mean, Betty, it's mostly about Betty. And maybe because Betty had maybe a better experience. Now, Barney also had some things going on, but through her dreams, she was able to remember a map that was shown to her during her time. So through hypnosis, through her dreams, through her recollections, she remembers three small beings, three like small men ish things.
5'4", who were approximately 5'4". So they were little. I think
they were very Tom Cruise like.
Tom Cruise. Yeah, I think if you're short. I think if you're under 5'3", you're considered short. Like I don't know how.
For a man, maybe 5'5". I don't know. I'm not sure but they were small, like in comparison, obviously, to what she considered tall. Yeah, so and they were like kind of very pronounced nose and features like as they described them, and but were not human to her.
Yeah, they were humanoid in shape, but
Yeah.
these were not people running around with
or little blue uniforms, which I was like, oh, cute. Look at you little fellas running around abducting people.
You little Oompa Loompas. Space Oompa Loompas.
Did you read? Ooh. Yeah, no. So she ends up, and they kind of separate them, I guess, during the
so under hypnotic regression, they recall being put in separate rooms.
Yes. Yeah, separate rooms. Well, naked. Betty had a better experience by
they were naked. Far. Both were stripped naked and put on tables.
Yeah, Barney had his junk inserted into a cup of some sort or a basket.
Yes, apparently he had a ring of warts where this was placed. Apparently,
really? I didn't.
That gets us explained. Warts. Okay. I guess they don't clean it between extractions.
You filthy aliens! Damn you!
You sanitize.
But it was the 60s, man. Everyone had some sort of weird shit going on. Yeah. So, and she described it as the only pain she experienced was they inserted a needle into her belly button, and then the pain went away as this one leader, she describes it just, these are not the droids you are looking for, or you no longer feel pain in your belly button. Whatever the case may be, that's sort of what happened. They took a lock of her hair. No anal probing at this time, I don't believe.
No.
But on poor Barney, up it went. He got
did not read that. I read the cup. I didn't read on that, but I mean, hey.
Yeah, no, it was a quick anal insertion and then it was done. And he believes that the cup extracted semen, but he did not have an orgasm. Yeah. How fucking terrible is that? With all your alien technology, don't you think you could at least give the poor fellow a fucking no? Fuck you, aliens. Anyway. Yeah, so he definitely got, no wonder he doesn't want to talk about it. It's like, dude, I got my balls stuck in a cup. I got something rammed up my ass. And like, she's like, oh, they cut off a lock of my hair.
They sang pleasant music. It was very nice. It was like a spa day.
They left me alone for a bit and I examined some of the star charts.
Yeah, well, yes. This is the cool part about
this is the coolest part.
The coolest part, right? Is that so
she drew a map. Chart. Yeah, she drew a map.
And it didn't line up. Didn't line up with anything we knew at the time.
At the time, that's right. And then there was some amateur astrologists or astronomers. Astrologists who believe that Taurus and Virgo were
Mars was in ascension and Jupiter was in descension.
That is astronomers.
Yeah, folks.
For those
important distinction. Astronomers do not like to be called astrologers. I don't know if astrologers are cool with being called astronomers. I think they like it.
They might. They might. So, yeah. And who knows? Maybe they were amateur astrologists.
Maybe.
That
might explain. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe this isn't as cool as we thought. Better reread that. Was it astronomers or astrologists? Like, oh, they were astrologers. Oh,
she predicted that Taurus was going to have a very bad summer or something.
Bill's week
2021.
Was terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, she draws this fucking map, and it's pretty rudimentary.
Yeah, it's very crude, very primitive.
And the name of the system she called it was Zeta Reticuli.
Which, funny enough, is also what the abduction incident is also known as. So this abduction incident is known as either the what is it?
The Hill abduction.
The Hill abduction, or the Zeta rectum.
No, not rectum.
The
rectilia.
Zeta rectilia.
Incident.
I'm not going to be able to say this. Yeah.
Reticuli.
Yes. Zeta reticuli.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway. And everyone's like, okay, you're off your rocker. But until now, I don't know exactly when those guys because they kind of just started looking at patterns, right?
So they said it was compute. So what I had heard was, now I haven't found a lot of details on it, and I didn't delve super deep into it because you get down these rabbit holes, and that's why I like to do my crazy boards. But sometimes I'm like, I got too much stuff to link up. But they said computers. They said computers were able to take what
it was a star system. Yeah,
it was a star system that actually exists. Which the chance of her randomly drafting this apparently isn't great.
Pretty fucking slim to none. However, there are arguments. I hate to be the devil's advocate that they were. I mean, with bazillions of stars in star systems, I could probably draw a star system and maybe, I mean, who knows? But yeah, so it was very odd. I mean,
it was completely one of those things that add a bit of, that's the term, legitimacy to it. That and her probe, actually.
Yes.
So they say, that what she had, it's like, this sounds like modern day techniques for in vitro fertilization where they extract the eggs.
Through the belly button? Really? Correct. I had no idea. But that's what she said, that it was extremely painful, and I don't believe he had that same procedure. He was busy being milked in the other. They were going
both ends, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe he was actually, maybe it was actually like a milking the prostate kind of thing.
It had to be.
Well, maybe that's why he had the probe.
I don't know.
Maybe he got the order confused. They're like, oh, what do we do first? Do we put the cup on? Like, I guess cup first.
Apparently, Barney was like, I do not want to remember what I say after hypnosis. So
I don't know.
Which I can't blame him. Can you blame him?
You know what? They say that the hypnotic regression is, we can make you forget. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
it didn't matter because Barney died at 46.
Yeah, he was having health issues, actually. So that's one thing they had said, that he was having a bunch of health issues. Now, they don't really say he wasn't having them before the incident.
Right. Yeah, he seemed, like in pictures, they seemed like healthy working individuals. But he died at 46. She died at 85. So
2004, actually.
Yeah, and she never remarried, and she stuck with this story. This story was something that never changed, never altered. Yeah, to the day she died. So, is it true? It seems to me like a pretty legit story.
It's okay. So we've got two ones to talk about tonight. This is the more legitimate of the two. When I say legitimate,
I'm not sure.
I say because of the time. And the time this happened, this wasn't like nowadays where everybody has an alien abduction. Everybody knows what to say because we've all been primed, right?
So the next one is going to be one that's more familiar with,
more
contemporary. And that is Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton story.
Did you know when the book that the Fire in the Sky is based off of, it's called like the Walton incident or the Walton, what's it called?
Walton something like that.
Something completely like, wait a second.
I knew a little bit about this story. I think I watched the movie when I was a kid.
The Walton Experience. So almost like it's a musical.
He wrote a book. He wrote a book. And the movie Fire in the Sky was based off the Walton Experience, which honestly, and he, by his own admission, was not a very accurate rendering of his story. And he was just recently on Joe Rogan.
He was. I don't watch Joe.
Oh, you're missing out. I like Joe Rogan.
I'm currently taking the Great Course. I just finished the
Great Courses.
The Great Courses. The Great Courses. So the one I just finished was the Foundations of Western Civilization.
That sounds so exciting.
Yeah, it had its moments.
Okay, well, I mean, you can still fit in a little Joe Rogan here and there. Jeez, spoil yourself.
I have a hard enough time watching these podcasts that we do, much of the stuff that our competition does. Oh, wait, are we even remotely competitive?
What does that even mean? Are we remotely competitive?
With the Joe Rogan Experience. I mean, is this kind of a...
No. I mean, in viewership? No. we're not. Maybe one day we'll have 1 billion of his subscribership. But anyway, he started out just like this. So
I think he started out a little bit.
No, not well. Yeah, he was pretty well known through Fear Factor and things like that. His story is actually quite interesting because a Canadian, what's his name?
Justin Bieber?
No, who's the guy that was? Did you want some sausage? Daddy, do you want some sausage?
Oh, Dave McKinnon or Scott?
No,
Scott Tom, that sounds like a Kids in the Hall guy, right?
Tom Green.
Oh,
So
that was Tom.
Tom
That was the
Green.
worst Tom Green.
We're
Worst
gonna take a
Tom
little
Green
side here,
ever.
folks. We're taking a little side because I got to do. So Tom Green started fucking podcasts before everybody else in the entire universe started podcasts. He started to do them in his fucking basement early on in the internet's fucking invention, right? And it was streamed. He actually had Joe Rogan on one of these podcasts. Joe Rogan was just an up and coming comedian, and he fucking fell in love with the idea of just sitting and shooting the shit with people, and it stuck with him. And now, a bazillion dollars later, he followed his dream and he started doing the Joe Rogan Experience, and that's how things kind of started out. But it was Tom Green.
Oh, I did not know that. No,
yeah, well, Joe explains that. He goes, "That's where I started." And actually, he has the clip, or the recording of the Tom Green show. And Tom Green's just a fucking maniac, right? And he has Tom Green on his show quite often and things like that. But Ottawa, he's from Ottawa, Tom Green.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
You can have him. No, I'm Tom Green, if you're watching. I don't have anything against you.
I don't have anything. The humor itself, even when I was of the age where
he's a shock and awe kind of guy. But he was shock and awe before.
Shock and awe was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he did weird shit like Jackass did before Jackass ever even their balls dropped. I mean, the dude fucking is sort of like a genius in his own way, I guess.
Well, a trailblazer. I don't know if I'd say genius. I think genius might be an over.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's yeah, I use the term loosely. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, that's where he started. But back to Walton.
Okay, yes. The Walton Experience.
It was Fire in the Sky, DB Sweeney, who I did text you.
So just a little aside here. So Phil and I, we talk about what topics we're going to talk about. Phil said like the Betty and Barney Hill and DB Sweeney. I'm like,
do you remember Fire in the Sky? And you were like, no.
I'm like, isn't that an actor? Like, he had an experience?
I meant with DB Sweeney. DB Sweeney will be one of them. You won't recognize him, but actually you might. Anyway. So it's November the 5th, 1975. Snowflake, Arizona is our setting. So he's a fucking lumberjack. And if you Google him, he's, Walton he's a lumberjack. That's what he did. He was 21 years old.
Yeah, I actually have a picture of him in his lumberjacky days. He does not look like a lumberjack now.
No, he kind of looks like an auditor for the IRS.
It wears those suit and ties, which I think is
weird like suit and ties. And it also takes place. They were on a job. Basically, they're finishing up. It's coming on evening. They're driving back, and they see something in the sky, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And it's a large disc of some sort. So they pull up. And they stop. And for whatever reason, Walton fucking jumps out and runs towards it. Oh, like we all would do. And as described by the 6 other people there were 7 in total, including Walton. And they're all like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, and he's approaching it. So he's
running towards it.
Like he's actually gotten out of the back of the truck and he's heading towards it. Like he's
running towards it. And as he describes in one of the interview I watched, he says, I just wanted to see it up close. He goes, and it felt like it was going away. It was leaving, So, and he's very like his way of talking about it. I mean, he was a kid. And now
he was 20. He was 20, like 20.
Yeah, he was a kid though.
20, like something.
Yeah. So, and he was like really fucking excited to see it. And as he describes it, he says, "I don't really remember much other than it felt like I hit something, and this beam of light hits me, and it basically knocks me back pretty far." He goes, "I don't remember how far." And the next thing you know, it's like, I'm unconscious. I don't remember anything else from that point on.
So here's an interesting thing I'd read about this whole thing is that he wasn't unconscious. The beam of light actually killed him.
What?
So, one of the theories about this from another UFO researcher who's interviewed Travis is basically that what had happened was the aliens accidentally killed him. So the aliens were basically leaving.
I was gonna say I have a theory about this. It wasn't, yeah. So, okay, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
you,
no.
I'm kind of excited because that's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, this
as
is it,
I
right?
was reading it.
So they go off and say that it's like, because once you get into more details, it seems considerably more plausible. Like, okay, wait a second, they didn't shoot you to abduct you.
No, he ran into them.
You ran into them and you got killed. Like whatever it is, them taking off, whatever killed you, and they're like, shit, we killed a guy. Can we fix him?
Yeah. Well, not only that, his buddies left him.
Yes. Yeah.
They got scared, and they're like, Travis is dead. Jimmy, out of here.
Yeah, I hope that never happens to me, Phil.
I would never happen to you. I even went back for your brother one time.
Yes.
Against my better judgment. We'll get into that maybe.
That will be your alien abduction where you got probed.
I do not believe I was probed.
You do a missing time.
It could have happened, though.
It could have happened.
Because of your brother.
They've gotten better at it. I barely knew.
They're very, very fast. Anyway, so Travis, yeah, and it's funny you say that because I'm like, he runs into this fucking thing. And he openly admits that. He goes, I ran into it. Like, he goes, I was only like, several yards away. Like, and next thing I know, he goes, I'm unconscious. I don't have he wakes up and he's surrounded by what looks like grays, like he goes.
They're traditional. So this is where I start to question things, is when you start seeing the little gray, like the big eyes, the Roswell guys, right? That are ingrained in our consciousness at this point.
Yes. So, but he doesn't just say about that. So, because he gets violent, which he's fucking scared, which, he says it looks like a hospital room. And in his description on Joe Rogan, he's like, I didn't know what to do. He goes, there was no aggression towards me. He goes, I just reacted because one, I was terrified. He said, the next thing I know, like this human, he goes, a human was coming into the room to restrain me.
Which is funny because he says a human. So he says,
it's a human. Yeah.
he says until a human wearing a helmet.
A helmet. That's right. And then
we're talking like an army, like, so he's not really distinct. Like, is it a full face helmet? Is it an army helmet? Is it a Kaiser helmet with a spike? Like
he didn't really get it, like, from the interview that I watched. It doesn't really say, but he goes, everything is a bit foggy. He goes, because I felt like I was in a kind of a dream.
Yeah, like, and they'd actually brought. So funny enough, that would be an anesthetic,
right?
Like if you're anybody who's ever gone off and had surgery done.
Oh yeah,
and you come out of it, you feel like
hello. So yeah, so then really
he was led into a room with three other people who put a mask over his face. And the next thing he knows, he's naked at the gas station.
Basically, yeah, and they're like, "Okay, you crazy son of a bitch, we just saved your life."
And this was 5 days later.
You're gonna attack, yeah. So then he winds up. He says that his memory, he remembers seeing the ship move away as he was standing on the road. They basically just dumped him off. Yeah.
Now his buddies were actually under investigation by the police.
So this is the backstory, which is fucked up. Like, this is real serious shit, right? So he had an altercation with one of the guys he worked with that day or that morning over some girl, apparently. And he talks about this on the Joe Rogan show too. And he says, like, like, it was kind of an altercation. He goes, we were lumberjack guys. He goes, like, we're always kind of fighting with one another.
Rough and tough men, manly men.
Yeah, and or just hotheads, and
or a bunch of dudes in their 20s.
Yeah, I mean the fucking yeah, those guys. So when he went missing, it was like the guys went back. So they had left him, and then the one guy was like, "Fuck, we got to go back for him. We can't just leave him." So they go back, and he's not there, right? And they're like, "Oh fuck." And they have one flashlight and they're like trouncing around in this fucking bush trying to find him. No sign of him. So this is where things get a little weird. They do go to the police. They tell their story. the police interview each one of them. Each one has the exact same story. This is collaborated through the police department, Arizona Police Department. They bring police dogs to where they were. The police dogs pick up the scent. This is all logged in their books. Pick up the scent from where the truck was to where they kind of estimate that he would have fallen. And then, guess what? The scent is gone. Gone. There's no scent. They can't pick up any trails. They had half a dozen or more police dogs looking for, some sign, and there was nothing. So that's very odd. Unless he was picked up by a helicopter, these dogs within 24 hours are going to fucking pick up.
And this is why if you don't have a couple-day head start, once they start bringing the dogs out,
fuck, those dogs are good, man.
Those dogs are going to find you, and they're gonna follow you.
Yeah, you're fucking right. They are.
So it's funny you mentioned about witnesses. Did you hear about how one of his witnesses recanted and said they cannot consider themselves witness to the event anymore?
No, I didn't hear that.
So Michael H. Rogers, one of the six in the truck.
Yeah.
I, Michael A. Rogers, being of sound and rational mind, do hereby give notice that I am no longer to be considered a witness to Travis C. Holton's supposed abduction of November 5th, 1975. This showed up on his Facebook page in March 19th, 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There was one... Yeah, there was apparently one guy, and he mentions him on Joe Rogan. So in their testimonies, a few of these guys started crying. So I don't know which ones. I'm assuming it's probably one of the ones that are upset. But I mean, you're in a stressful situation, and I don't begrudge someone crying. I mean, just because you're a man doesn't mean you should.
Not all tears are evil, my friend.
Yeah, and you know what? And
Gandalf
so a few of them,
that.
and they all admitted. Who said that?
Apparently Gandalf did.
Oh God, we fucking mentioned Gandalf a lot in this podcast.
What do you mean we mentioned Gandalf? Listen here.
I have so many pictures of Gandalf. Anyway, so they admit that throughout the course of this happening, what?
Nothing.
He's a beautiful man.
He's a beautiful man.
Anyway, they all cried at some point or another, and that it was very stressful, and they were all young men, right? So, at any rate, a few of them got upset about the fact that they said that somebody was crying, but they all had to take lie detector tests.
Yeah,
and they all passed.
So it's funny you mentioned about the polygraph. So that's another thing, right? So some of the skeptics.
Yes. No, there's contention about it. Yeah, it was improperly done.
The polygraph tests were poorly administrated, and that polygraph countermeasures such as holding their breath was used. They specifically focus on
these lumberjacks would know all the countermeasures.
Well, this was 1975, right? So you can't. I mean, you can Google that now.
I don't know.
They say Walton, so this is more associated with Walton because apparently he had polygraph tests done on him
prior.
No, well.
He had it, and so did all of because they became suspects immediately, right? And they were actually like, if he didn't show up, I mean, this was bad. Like they were assuming that he was murdered, that Walton was murdered, Travis.
Oh yeah, so this is right. I mean, alien. Like now, mind you,
right? Like likely story.
Yeah. That's the one. Okay, we gotta get our story straight. Aliens took him away. Okay.
Yeah, and this one particular fella in the group. Who had the kind of the beef with Travis. He also tried to fucking hit him with a tree earlier that day. I don't know if to kill him, probably not, but probably to hurt him.
Well, to scare the crap
or scare the shit out of him.
I mean, can I imagine you say hitting with a tree? It's like he was cutting it down as opposed to the tree through. Because I mean, they're big guys.
They're lumberjacks. They're fucking cutting trees down, and it's like, oh yeah, I didn't tell Walton. There's a tree coming down behind you.
Right.
At any rate, the cops are like, yeah, okay, fuck you guys. And I'm pretty sure they were held in custody. I'm not exactly 100%.
I couldn't find the exact details about that. They don't go into a lot of crazy.
It was in the news though. It was making headlines.
It made the news. Like this is
that these guys, and they're like, listen, I know it sounds unbelievable, but we fucking didn't kill him, and then all of a sudden Walton shows up, and they're all like, oh my God, thank fuck. because it started to look like that. Now, could it be a hoax? Sure. I mean,
well, that's funny you mentioned it.
Jesus, we're keeping you up.
You're not keeping me up. My room is literally 1,000 degrees. Okay, not figuratively, literally 1,000 degrees.
It's a sauna. It's a sauna.
Yes,
nice.
Very much so. And this
not even
my ice
sweating.
melts. Well, it's because I haven't done my raise my arms up.
Oh, don't. No. Please don't. Spare the audience.
So okay. Back to the Walton polygraph thing.
Yeah.
So Philip J. Klass, he's a UFO researcher, and I think we saw him in some other ones.
Yeah.
Area 51, I think, is they found evidence of an earlier failed test administered by an examiner who concluded the case involved a gross deception.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then everybody. So funny enough, all the claims that are coming back seem to be more about that. Hey, the polygraph was bad. Not anything else he said. Just the polygraph that proved it. And I mean, some of the skeptics will say, well, alien abductions were a thing all the time. Like it was on TV. Like he didn't talk about it until
he kind of kept a low profile afterwards. So I guess the Inquirer gave them all $5,000 or something for the story.
Okay. I did not read that.
So there was some monetary. Sense. Yeah. But I mean, it was more like offered to them because of, it was like the story of the year type of thing for Inquirer.
And a slow year for the Inquirer.
Well, it was a pretty big story. I don't remember it because I wasn't born yet.
Don't they normally make up their stuff?
Generally.
Well, I mean, do you need to pay for that if you're gonna, the Elvis
I think it was
alien
more
love child?
It was a big story, and they offered these guys.
They kind of got the rights,
and they took it. And why wouldn't they? Back then, $5,000, buy a new truck. But yeah,
$5,000. Could you? I mean,
75.
I mean, it's certainly going to. It's some walking around change for. It's some walking around.
Oh, you buy a new truck for sure, though. I think I don't know what a new truck was in 75, but it was probably under $10,000. I would think.
Oh.
Well, American for sure. $5,000, buy something. Like you can buy a $10,000 car now.
I was buying $500. I was buying $500 cars in the 90s.
You know what's crazy is some of the cars that we had, like my Malibu. I had an old 2-door fucking 3-speed Malibu. I had it through college. That fucking car now, I sold that car for $300 running in fairly good condition for $400. I didn't want it anymore. It was too hard in gas. And you try and buy that car now with no wheels, no engine, it's $6,500.
Yeah, none of my K cars were ever like, they were literally junk.
You had so many K cars and Tempos. Ford Tempo.
Oh yes, the Tempo.
This podcast brought to you by Ford Tempo.
Hey, when your father runs a wrecking yard, he keep happening.
Dude, you always had a car. You always had a car. Didn't matter what it looked like.
Yeah, in fact, right.
I did my driving test with your car. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like, "You don't have a rear view or a passenger side mirror."
Do I need one? But if I did, I checked it. I looked at it, right?
I just keep looking at him. I passed. Whatever. Fuck. It was all good. But yeah, so this Walton guy, I mean, he seems like he does. I mean, it's easy though to say, well, I don't remember anything other than, kind of a little bit that happened on the.
He seems to remember all this. So this is the funny thing about not remembering anything. For not remembering anything, he remembers punching his way out of a UFO.
I think he didn't punch his way out of it. He punched his way into probably a straitjacket and being, who knows? But yeah, the funny thing about the story is the humans. And he describes humans being on this ship. So
specifically saying humans, not humanoid. And he says
no, humans.
He says humans, which implies.
Yeah. So when he talks on Joe Rogan, he says humans. I don't know. Maybe there's a collaboration. We keep hearing it, that there's this fucking collaboration of humans and aliens and.
Well, so let's step back for a second and look at the whole concept of alien abduction. Now, in this case, in both the Hill abduction and the Walton abduction, the Walton experience, depending on whether you want to know the name.
The Walton experience.
I really would have gotten somebody to come up with a better name for that, because that's not like Walton's experience Travis as well.
Waltons.
Like, yeah, the Waltons. Yeah. But let's look at the idea that if you were aliens abducting people. Now, again, in the Walton experience,
Yes.
they may not have very well abducted him. It may have been, oh crap, dude, you hit that human. Oh man.
No, it was probably you and I are aliens, and this fucking monkey is running towards our ship, and we're ready to take off. And all we hear is,
Oh damn.
oh no. And he's got 6 people watching. Fuck.
Get him in a med bay. Okay, let's
Hank, go pick up that meat sack.
That's right. Go load him. Get the shovel.
Oh fuck, load him in. I mean, I believe that is so plausible. Like, if come on, like, I mean, it makes sense, you know. And more
that
sense
makes
than
that
they
makes
zapped them. They didn't zap them.
Exactly. They zapped them, and then like
so these propulsion systems are if they exist, they have to use something, and I assume that if you are within range of that propulsion system, if you stand behind an F-18 and it starts its engine,
you ain't got any problems anymore. You're good. Your problems are all solved, dude.
Toast.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you are a skeletal remain, maybe.
And this is why, if you look at this as less of an, like I said, more of an experience than an abduction, it's almost gonna be called the Walton resurrection.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so there was other people who witnessed this ship. It wasn't just them.
Sure.
The other part
well, they saw something.
Well, they saw something unusual, and it was reported. So there was a couple accounts. Now, this area in Arizona was kind of a hot spot, and he describes it as they were looking for this material that this is in his interview that they
see. And I call bullshit on that. How the hell would he know everything you hear about? He barely remembers anything, and it's like, I remember punching my way out of an infirmity.
Yeah, and then, he just over the years of talking to different for hotspots of alien.
They were looking for element X.
No, it's actually a high concentration of lightning, and what it does is, I've never seen it myself, but you know how like
lightning, the thing from the sky, lightning, or like greased lightning, like the song that John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John sung.
No,
I don't know if she sung
disco.
It.
No.
Okay.
No disco.
That was from Greece.
So what happens is lightning hits the ground, and it actually melts some of the sand, and it creates these crystallized. It's a real thing. I was like,
I'm sure it's a real thing. I mean,
so the aliens apparently, not sure why, but they like this stuff. Who knows? They got me yawning. Fuck.
It's contagious. It's a virus.
Contagious. It's a human response.
But the whole idea of, if you're an alien, so in the case of the Hill abduction, that clearly sounds like not so much a catch and release, but because I don't think they were necessarily tagged, right? But there was definitely some sampling going on.
For sure. And it seems like the anal probing is pretty popular. This may be the birth of anal probing in terms of people, right? Because you hear it in the media.
They were doing anal. Barney was doing anal probing before. It's cool to do anal probing.
Barney was ahead of his time.
I mean, I guess if you're looking for innovative ways of checking out,
if you are out there listening, aliens, why the ass? Take some blood. Seriously.
We got CAT scans and MRIs and all that stuff now. You surely must have something better.
Right.
And you must have enough samples. You must have enough samples at this point. So so the Hill abduction is clearly an abduction of some sort. And given the time, and I don't want to say the legitimacy of the abductees, it doesn't sound as crazy. I mean, it sounds weird. Like, there's certainly some really odd elements to it, but
yeah, you're right. I mean, with Travis Walton, I think it's more, there was some seriousness to it because people could have went to jail, right? So I don't know if you would be able to talk 6 of your buddies into, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. Okay. I'm going to pretend to go missing. And, you're going to maybe face some really, heavy charges. And then you're just going to stick to your stories. And I'll show up about 5.5 days later, and all this will go away. Okay. Well, that'd be a tough sell. I don't know. You have to be pretty fucking dumb.
Exactly, and for what, right?
And
so,
for what?
Like I mean, what? Publicity, I suppose.
To look like a fucking nut job.
Well, I mean,
at the time, 70s. I mean, you're going to be like alien abduction.
When was the heyday of alien abductions?
I don't know. Probably then.
So let me just see when Project Blue Book was released to the general public.
There's been
now. Didn't they recently do something? What's in the news recently where they talk about the U.S.
So
a bunch of stuff is being dumped out.
So the Pentagon has released a bunch of things about these Tic Tacs. A lot of governments have actually started to release this that we don't know what it is. So you kind of have to look at the what's going on right now, and it's very topical. I know that there's a lot of sightings. These are big sightings too, like the triangles in the sky, the Tic Tacs, the orbs, the fucking discs.
When you say Tic Tacs, you're talking Tic Tacs.
It looks like it's fucking Tic Tac that moves at a bazillion miles an hour and can zigzag all over the fucking sky. These are picked up on fighter pilots' cameras. Like they're legit fucking.
And we've seen
they can't track them. They can't. Oh yeah, and you can't track them.
Now, again, we're talking unidentified flying objects, right? So unidentified flying objects doesn't mean aliens. It means technology we're not familiar with at all, and scary ass stuff, right? Like what do you think if the Russians are doing? That's where a lot of the stuff, like the whole Blue Book, came from. It wasn't hey, aliens are doing it. It's like no, we got a Cold War going on, and we need to know if this is legitimate. Like, are we seeing test weapons flying around, or they are test weapons, right? Remember our Area 51 episode?
For sure. And knowing what came out of there already, and that we haven't seen anything, and some of the new things that they're claiming to be working on, I don't, it is quite legitimately possible that what we're seeing is the work of us, right?
Except when we start dealing with the abduction issue. So once we start dealing with that is not. There is no need for the government, contrary to popular belief, to pretend to be like do the Scooby-Doo thing and pretend to be aliens and grab people when literally they could go anywhere they want and grab people.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you see all these horrible experiments that were run on people without their consent or knowledge.
Oh yeah.
We don't need
MK Ultra.
Like MK Ultra, right? Like the syphilis one with the syphilis experiments they did on.
Well, the CIA's done countless.
Well, that wasn't CIA. That was
at that time, but
But it was the whole idea that you had these experiments being done,
sure.
Right? And MK Ultra would be a great podcast.
It would be
right.
Happened even in Canada, in Montreal, in the insane asylum. Horrible shit. But
it wasn't intentional.
Aliens,
back to aliens. But that idea that you have your UFOs, so your unidentified flying objects, which a lot of the Blue Book stuff. And I'm gonna in my notes I'll have the link to the Blue Book report. It's actually on the archives. It's available. So folks, go to orderchaos.ca and the links. I've got the FBI, I've got the U.S. archives, I've got some military, like there's some good stuff there if you're looking for
stuff that's hard to find. You've done some digging.
Yes,
that's not easy stuff.
I do really like Wikipedia though. Unfortunately,
you are a wiki guy. I like a little of everything. I like to kind of read a little bit of here and there. Watch.
You like to watch. You like to watch and listen. I'm more of a reader.
Yeah, I do both. Though I do read report. Like I don't read reports like you do. I can't. If it's too dry, I can't do it. I gotta have a little romance in my reading, man. I can't just fucking read reports. But when it comes to these things, I often, say, okay, well, what's the benefit? Could aliens abduct people and us never know? Well, of course, if you have a civilization that has this technology, the only reason that we know is because they fucking want us to know.
And did they just suddenly start showing up? Because why weren't they abducting people during the 1400s when it'd be like, the whole village could go missing, and
seriously, if you abduct me, you take me, there's no reason that you can't fly 100 million fucking miles away and just shoot me out into fucking space and get rid of me. No proof.
Do you remember Mars Attacks?
Yeah, it was a great fucking movie.
Okay. So remember one of the things that Pierce Brosnan's character said? He said they have a high degree of technology, which implies they're peaceful.
Yeah, that's right.
He was wrong,
Sure.
but the
that's
idea
why we build
that,
nuclear weapons.
but there's a degree of the statement basically comes from the fact that if you're highly advanced, right, technologically, it assumes you're going to be highly advanced overall, which means really you don't need to kill, and you might not. I mean,
so it's funny. There's this theory
need to kill people
that why we haven't reached out to anybody, and nothing has reached out to us. And there is this like cosmic theory that a lot of
we scare the shit out of the rest of the universe.
No, it's that when a civilization, doesn't matter what civilization it is, it reaches this plateau of technology, reaches this pinnacle, and it ends up fucking destroying itself. It's just a theory that, so, you have an advanced civilization. If we could find, I mean, if there wasn't, maybe there's an exception to every rule, right? But I mean, think about it. You got a planet like us. We're getting advanced. We're probably still in the dark ages of nuclear infusion, and
we still have a lot of challenges ahead of us,
for sure. And we're destroying our fucking planet as we go. If we don't get wiped out by some natural occurring phenomenon, there's a real fucking good chance that we wipe ourselves out, before we have a chance to go and spread our seed in the universe, right? So that is one of the theories of why you don't see, these things happening.
So not the Prime Directive. You're not quoting the Prime Directive then?
No, I'm not quoting the Prime.
Just making sure.
But it was an interesting theory I was reading about that, and I think it was actually Neil deGrasse that was talking about it. It was like, when a civilization reaches its pinnacle, its plateau of intelligence, instead of actually, it's estimated that we probably would, just based on what we do to ourselves. Right.
Well, okay, so let's take a look at our history.
Pretty scary.
Pretty scary. So let's look at empires that have done this. And we're talking empires, civilization. You can equate empires and civilizations
for sure. For sure. Look at the Romans. Look at the Greeks.
The Romans, right?
The Philistines.
Fell off a cliff, right?
They always do, and I think it's because they become so big, right? And then once you're too big, you can't control all the arms of everything that you do, right?
So, well, it's sort of like the center cannot hold.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this idea that the civilization crushes itself. Now,
right.
One of the interesting ones I had read about aliens in contact is if you followed humans for any period of time, you'd be like, let me get this straight. These guys are killing each other all the time. They are horrible people. And you want to meet them and do what?
Yeah.
Give them better guns?
So this is, and that's the thing, though, is that if we can learn anything from nature, though, right? We try and take the nature out of what we are as a culture, as a whole. But
some would argue what
do animals do? They fucking eat and kill and survive, right? And
but they usually do it for reasons. So this is.
Well, I'm not saying that they don't, but we've eliminated a lot of those reasons for us. We can go to the grocery store, right? We can, but
I had steak,
but part of that
steak.
Oh, I love steak. See, but did you have to go out and kill it and clean it? And
I went to Costco. It was like a hunt, but it was in Costco. So.
It was my hunt of the day.
Hunt of my day. I had to
Costco.
To slay 3 people to get my steak.
I had to push my cart really, really fast.
Right.
Very good, Corey. I'm fucking proud of you. But our brain hasn't changed in a lot of ways. Like if you look at anthropology, like the human skull from fucking 3 million years or 300,000 years ago, it's virtually the same. So our brain has stayed relatively intact and the same, but our way of life has changed, right? So there's still this aggression. Like humans are very aggressive,
And it's funny enough, we're aggressive, but we're incredibly social creatures too. So
with our own packs, like look at chimpanzees. That's a fucking amazing study. Like you have chimps that just go randomly. So you'll have groups of families of chimps, and they'll have an area and they will go and they will kill all the other chimps in another area and take it. Oh, they keep the women. Right? And that's just showing what we are. Like we're
So if you were an advanced civilization and you saw us little monkeys doing this, you'd be like,
you'd be like,
let's give them a little more time.
Let's watch this. It's sort of like watching the Jerry Springer show.
Yeah, that's right. We'll set some stuff up in orbit. Set some stuff up in orbit and just watch what these people are doing.
And that's not me saying that everyone's bad. What I'm saying is,
as a species as a whole, we have a problem.
We do. I'm not saying I'm any better than anyone else, but as individuals, you know, two people can stand together and go, oh yeah, you know, hey Bob. Now you put 100 people on one side and 100 people on the other side, and they're going to find problems.
You put 100 people in one area and they'll divide it to two groups of 50 that will have problems over.
This is what happens. Yeah. So,
or 10 groups of 10, depending on how.
Yeah. And there's a lot of social studies that have shown us that humans do not play well with others. We live in our groups as long as we have a leader, you know, as long as we have control. And in the wild, if you look at what control is in a chimp's world, right, it's power. It's who's the strongest, right? And now we no longer have to be physically strong, but you look at the United States and its military prowess, right? You have a strength in your technology. So if I was an alien and I looked in on this, I'd be like, it's a matter of time. They're going to kill themselves. You know.
And if they don't, if they manage to get past that, because I don't agree that it's insurmountable. I think the odds are better that we're going to wipe ourselves out than get to that sort of, you know, Star Trek utopia. Hey, fun fact, you know what utopia actually means?
No idea.
Oh, I learned this from my Foundations of Western Civilization. No place.
No place.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist and can't exist. So the whole idea of a utopia, fictional place, doesn't exist, can't exist.
Yeah. Not for all people. There is no utopia for everyone. My utopia would be very different than your utopia.
True, but you will never. But your utopia will also never exist.
Exactly, for sure. And the sooner people realize that, the fucking more equipped you are to deal with things.
That's right. The happier you'll be once you come to the acceptance that things are not fair and move on.
And not even fairness, you know. And this is the other thing about advanced technologies. Like if I was we do it all the time. Like, you know, you shoot a fucking bear with a fucking tranquilizer. You go in, you pull a couple teeth. Check its claws. You scrape their fucking claws. You fucking check their anal temperature. You know, you're doing all these things to see if it's healthy. You extract some blood and then you fucking leave them. You wakes up like
now. Sometimes you tag them, right? So you go off and you tag. I mean,
tag their ears. Yeah,
if you've taken them down, you might as well tag them, right? And release them back.
Or a tracker. You put trackers on them. Yeah. So
sound familiar?
It's not. It's not implausible that this was done. But like you said, with the amount of technology that an advanced race would have to have, like, look at what we can do, and we can't just fucking travel to the moon.
Yeah, and it's not even a question of propulsion technology. Like there are so many technologies. Yeah, exactly, right.
That have to work together.
Like it's like you
need air.
Right.
You gotta eat.
Exactly. And FYI, it's not if assuming our laws of physics are correct, you can't go faster than the speed of light. And if you're flying from anywhere that's even remotely habitable, it's light years of travel. So obviously they're not flying, they're not covering space, right? This is where they start the technology. And this is why when you're hearing, oh, well, we shot down a UFO. With what? With what? Our rocks? Our missiles shot down this.
It's funny you say that because when you actually see, like in these fighters, these are the most advanced jets on the fucking planet, right? And they're trying to target. They have automatic targeting systems. This is not like fucking Top Gun where I got to get you in my. No, this thing.
They had automatic. I think they had automatic target systems there too. I think the guy was just pulling his stick. I'm trying to get him lined up. Okay, well.
Goose. Never mind, Maverick. Fuck, I've got him in my sights. No, but that's what I'm saying is that, you know, and they can't, like our new technology can't track these fucking things. So you tell me. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like when you hear about the Hill abduction, right? The story. Now, again, there's some legitimacy to they saw something and something happened to them.
And I believe they believe that they saw it. And there was something.
There was something. Yeah. What it is?
Because people like that too, like they put a lot on the line.
Oh, completely.
You know,
completely.
They don't
gain anything. They don't gain anything from it.
Yeah, and not only that, you're going public, and you're an interracial couple. Now you're just going to be hated because you're, an interracial. You don't stand a fucking chance.
And
in that
Barney's got an STD,
and Barney's got anal warts, or no, crotch warts.
I think they were genital warts. I think a ring of them.
Is genital warts different than crotch warts?
It sounds like a Google, Phil. You Google that one, buddy.
You don't want those, folks. That sounds. God damn.
And on that note, okay, so this episode we covered two abductions. We covered the Hill abduction and the Walton experience. One is one of the granddaddies that have the most legitimacy, air quotes, because of how it went through. And then you have the Walton experience, which was made into a movie, so therefore is also legitimate.
I would say that the first is, it's almost like when you look at the Patterson Gimli film for everything else is sort of compared. So
true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good analogy, right?
Yeah.
But
so this is sort of like
people comparing the two incidences and saying, "Well,"
you kind of go, "Holy fuck!" Like that thing is moving like a fucking animal, and then you look at like this dude in a fucking suit. Now not the same, right? And not that I want to take anything away from Travis Walton, but at the same time, I would say that the Hills are definitely like a pretty legit story from my understanding.
Because remember, at the time, they would have been before the whole got impregnated on our consciousness, right?
Absolutely.
So now all the stories are very, 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 very similar.
Yeah, and they could have been some of the reasons why some of this Project Blue Book or Project Sign or we're
Project Grudge,
right?
You're all losers. You're losers. Stop talking about it.
You're a fucking loser. Fuck you. All believe in aliens. God damn it. I love the idea of aliens, and I probably shouldn't, because part of me is like, fuck, if they ever do come, they're just coming to take our resources.
No, don't worry about that. No, I think they're good. Like you're telling me they couldn't stop at the 50 million other planets if they got here.
Yeah.
FYI, they're like, why would we take your first off, you're using them all and we don't need them. Second, we got the galaxy. We clearly have the universe. We'll stop at Mars. We'll take Mars's resources.
There's 1 trillion planets just around here. I don't know. Part of me is always like on the fence. I always fight with myself. I go, oh, Area 51. Those smart guys, they're in there fucking building beautiful, weird shit. And then another part of me is like, well, maybe it is aliens. I don't know. I'm curious when they release more information.
Well, they've been doing dumps all week. I haven't read any of them because I don't care. This was this would be a perfect time.
It would be, because nobody's fucking watching. It's crazy. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. Right? Nobody cares right now. And
nobody cares.
For a government to say we don't fucking know what that is, it's a big deal. That puts a little fear in their public.
I want to say there was something. It was one of those things that one of those orders, the executive orders that got pushed through before Biden came in, that it actually was in play.
Well, there was a governor who's like, "Yeah, I fucking want to know what this is," and he was pretty hell bent on finding out. And I think he was instrumental in some of this release. But then you have the ex-Israeli fucking Air Force commandant fucking dude going, "Yeah, there's aliens for sure." Did you read about that guy? Nobody fucking even listen. Exactly. Right?
I don't follow it. I told you I don't follow it. The only reason I read this stuff is because you said DB Sweeney was in it. I was like, fucking A. McSweeney. McDreamy's in it. Great.
Dreamy McSweeney.
I think he was the guy on whatever that they called McDreamy.
I don't know. So what are we doing next week?
What do you mean? I thought we weren't going to talk about what we're doing because of the incident. So in case you're wondering, folks, the incident is Phil promised we would have a live Mason to interview. That never happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So we've been sort of
but we're back. We're back now. We're fucking back. What are we doing?
Okay, so you're going to put me on the spot? Okay.
Fuck yeah, I am.
The Illuminati.
Again?
Okay, we didn't do the Illuminati before, Jerko. We did New World Order, which was a macro view. And the Illuminati itself, at least as far as a concept and an actual group, is interesting enough to fill, an hour and a bit? Easy?
More. Probably more.
Secret society, baby.
Maybe if you can find us an Illuminati member, that'd be perfect. And by the way, yeah, he bailed. he had things to do, I guess.
Well, it happens, right? It happens, and it's unfortunate that if you were hoping we would be able to find out for real if they're lizard people.
Yeah. I wanted to see him blink really fast.
That's right. I want to test him with salt.
Yeah.
Salt,
I like Illuminati though. That'll be fun. The way in my head, the way I see it kind of going is we got the historical Illuminati, and then we got sort of the conspiracy
kind of where things, where
Yes.
everything starts to get all cray.
Goes off the fucking rails pretty quick, I think. But on that note, thank you, Corey. And thank you for watching the OC with your hosts, Phil and Corey. And we are going to talk about the Illuminati next week. So you have yourself a great week. And, play straight. Keep your stick on the ice.
Have a good evening, folks.
Have a good night.